This week, we are talking all about Tiana's Bayou adventure, the Epic Universe Preview Center, and more. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Relive the Magic. I'm your host, Thompson, and today we have a ton of topics to get into. And so before we do, I just want to let you know you can subscribe to us on YouTube for more content throughout the week, every week, at youtube.com/relive the magic. There you'll find vlogs, video versions of this podcast, shorts, all kinds of other stuff as well. But usually I would keep going with this intro, but there's so much to talk about today. I just want to go ahead and move on with it because we have at least 4, maybe 5 main topics today. Just kind of depends on what kind of time we have here. I want to keep this less than an hour, but there's just been a lot over the last couple of weeks. And I didn't do a show last week just because the week was insane with all these different things going on. And so I thank you for your patience there. But a lot of the stuff we're talking about today, I got to experience since our last podcast. And so I'm super excited to talk about all of it. But the first thing I want to talk about will kind of be pretty quick. It's not theme park related. It's actually movie related. It is Disney. Inside Out 2 released in theaters this last Friday. And for me, Inside Out 2 has been a film I've been greatly looking forward to since it was announced at D23 Expo 2022. I was in attendance when it was announced, and I was super excited. That was like the highlight of the Walt Disney Studios and Pixar presentations, was that surprise announcement. I didn't expect it back when it was announced. And the original Inside Out is one of my favorite Pixar and animated movies in general. And so I, for years, have hoped they would do a sequel, and they finally did. And so I got to see it this last weekend. I do want to preface this by saying I did get to see 35 minutes of the film about a month or so ago. And so I had seen not half of the film, but, a decent portion of the first act. And I loved it. Like that first 35 minutes had me pumped to go to the theater and see the rest of Inside Out 2. And so it had a lot to live up to for me, just from expectations from, well, A, the first movie, and B, the trailers. The trailers looked awesome. And C, I had seen the first 35 minutes. And so I'm not going to talk a ton about it today, but I do want to say a few things about it. Number one, the movie did live up to my expectations and exceeded them. Waiting a month to see the second half of this movie was actually pretty hard because the way they cut the movie off for that preview just had me wanting to see what was happening next immediately. And so it's an interesting experience seeing the first 35 minutes of a movie and then not seeing the rest of it for a month. But I did go back and I watched the whole thing, obviously in theaters. I've seen it twice now in theaters, and I love it every time. And that didn't hamper my experience at all, which I'm thankful for. The whole film is super strong. All the acts, all act 1, 2, and 3 are super strong. And I'm not sure if I would say yet that it exceeded the first Inside Out, but it might have. It's at the very least, it's on the same level as Inside Out 1. I don't know if it is better necessarily. I need to go back and watch the first one again and probably see this one a couple more times, let it marinate a little bit. But Inside Out 2 is a huge win for Pixar, which was really, really needed after the last couple of years. Soul came out, and that was a fantastic film. Onward came out, and it was it was all right. Not memorable. I couldn't tell you what happened in that movie. I couldn't tell you. I could probably tell you the basic premise, but I couldn't remember anything else about it. What else came out? Luca came out, and I haven't watched it, but everyone loves it that has watched it. It just, that was a straight to Disney Plus release. And so it didn't get the attention it deserved. And then there was Elemental, which I really enjoyed Elemental a lot, actually. And I've watched it several times since it came out, but it is one of those that didn't do too well in the theaters. And so ultimately, I think it was time for Pixar to do a sequel. As much as we all love their original films, it was just time for them to do a return, to find a return to form through a sequel. And so getting a sequel to one of their best films, Inside Out 2, was really, really refreshing, and it was really great. And it proved that Pixar still has what they need to make films that are worthy of the Pixar brand. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's awesome. I hope that Disney doesn't screw this up by putting it on Disney Plus soon, because it needs a long time in theaters if it's going to it's already made a ton of money, but it can continue to make money by staying in theaters for a long time. And those people that would wait usually for it to come to streaming may decide to go see it in theaters. And it seems like that's already happening a little bit. But the longer it's in theaters without news of a Disney Plus release, the better. And so all that to say, it's a real quick, just I wouldn't say promotion, but, go see Inside Out 2 if you haven't already. And if you have, you should go see it again. It's an awesome film, and it's a good start to the summer movie season. There's a couple of other films I'm super pumped for this summer. Number one, Deadpool and Wolverine, which comes out in about a month or so. And Despicable Me 4. And I'm really excited for that one. I just love the Despicable Me franchise. And so I'm really looking forward to that one. There's also A Quiet Place Day 1 coming out in just a couple days. I think it's this Friday, which actually we'll go ahead and skip over to one of our other topics. Speaking of A Quiet Place, I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this today, but why not? I mean, it's Halloween Horror Nights, and so we talked a few weeks about Halloween Horror Nights announcements. There was the original announcements that took place, the 6 originals for the year, and we were waiting on the first IP house announcement, and so it's been about a week or two now since they've announced this, but I wanted to still include it on this week's show because it is something I'm super excited for. They announced for both Halloween Horror Nights Orlando and Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood that A Quiet Place will be coming to this year's event on both coasts. And, we don't know a super ton about this house. We do know, though, a few things. Number one, A Quiet Place on both coasts will be a compilation of both A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2. And so it'll probably be a best of both of those, which I think is probably a good move. What I'm most interested to see executed in this house, is how do they handle the silence? They have said in an article released that they will be using ASL for the first time in this haunted house. But I'm curious how, in the films, it's so quiet that it's tense. I'm curious if they're able to carry that over into the haunted houses. And so we don't know a ton about it. They did release some merchandise. They released, I believe, a mug and a t-shirt. Well, I know they have those because I have both of those here. But they released some merchandise, and I'm sure there'll be more throughout the event. But there's a t-shirt and a mug, and then they just announced the house. And so with that, Universal Studios Hollywood put tickets on sale, and that event starts the first weekend of September. And so it's a week after ours begins. I don't remember the specific date, but it'll then run until November 3rd, which is the same ending as our event has. And so it's almost as long as Orlando's event, just one weekend shorter. Our event here in Orlando starts August 30th with a special premium Scream Night on August 29th, which we talked about on the most recent Relive the Magic podcast. If you want to go back and listen for more details on that, it's a $350 special ticketed event the night before the first night of Halloween Horror Nights 2024 here in Orlando. And if you want to go there, I believe tickets are still on sale for that, and you can find more information on universalorlando.com. And A Quiet Place will, of course, be something offered on that event night. And I did get my ticket, and so if any of you are there, I'll see you there. I'll definitely post a video, do a review, because it's the first time this event's ever happened. And so I'm super excited to see how that event turns out, and I'm excited to share it with you. If any of you go, hope to see you there. But that's a real quick, just talk about A Quiet Place, which is coming to Halloween Horror Nights. And also, speaking of Halloween Horror Nights, this last Friday, which we'll get to some other things that happened this last Friday here in a minute, they released some merchandise for Halloween Horror Nights 33. Yeah, 33. That's what year it is. They released some more merchandise, which usually their merchandise comes with an announcement. And, there was last week, there was the Quiet Place announcement and merchandise. But this week, I have this cup with me. It's the same design on this cup as it is on the t-shirts and coasters and stuff that they released. But this looks kind of like it may be merchandise based around the original properties of this year's Halloween Horror Nights. Because on this cup I have, it's Major Sweets, and there's some other things, just random objects that maybe have something to do with some of the other houses. But Little Boo is on here, and it says Halloween Horror Nights, and it's a very large cup, like 40 ounces or more, I think. I think it's like 40 ounces, but they did the same Stanley Cup style for Mardi Gras, and so I saw this cup and I had to have it. But they do have a cup, a little sign, like stand-up sign. They have a t-shirt, coaster, and ornament, all available at the Five and Dime and All Hallows Eve Boutique. So if you're around Universal Orlando in the next few weeks, definitely pick it up if you want any of it, because I don't know how long it'll be around. The preview merch doesn't always stick around for the actual Halloween Horror Nights season. So if you're in the park soon and you want it, you probably should just go ahead and get it. I love it. I think it's great. I've really liked the interesting design choices of this year's merchandise so far. I've really enjoyed it. I've gotten some shirt. I got the infamous super bright orange shirt. And so I'm sure I'll get picked on for wearing that, but it's fine. I liked it. So yeah, there's more Halloween Horror Nights merchandise available now, and A Quiet Place has been announced. We're probably going to get our next announcement here in about a week or so for Halloween Horror Nights, so stay tuned to Relive the Magic as we bring more information to you about Halloween Horror Nights 33 and Halloween Horror Nights 2024 at Universal Studios Hollywood. All right, well, our first major topic, we have 3-4 major topics for today's show. We'll see how far we get. Our first major topic today is about Epic Universe, Universal Epic Universe, the brand new theme park opening in 2025. No specific season has been officially given. It used to be summer, and I have a feeling it'll be well before summer that we'll see at least previews of this park, but that's besides the point. The big thing about Epic Universe that happened over the last week is the Epic Universe Preview Center opened for all guests. Last Thursday, June 13th, was the first day the Epic Universe Preview Center was open to all guests. And so just wanted to talk a little bit about it here. I haven't uploaded a YouTube video on it yet, honestly, because I've tried to make one twice, but it's just been so crowded in there that it's so hard to get up to the model, and it's so hard to get clear shots of the merchandise and all that stuff. And so that's going to come in the next week or two. I'm going to do a deep dive into the Preview Center on our YouTube channel. And I'm sure that as I get to look more at the model in person, I'll have more to say. But for now, I just want to talk a little bit about the Epic Universe Preview Center. I am wearing my Super Nintendo World Orlando t-shirt and my Dark Universe hat, which I don't know with the lighting in here. If you're watching the video, I don't know if you can see it real well, but I do have it on me. So the Epic Universe Preview Center, basically, for those of you who didn't know, back when Islands of Adventure was being built, there was a preview center inside of Universal Studios Florida for Islands of Adventure. It was where some of the tribute stores go, right next to the Revenge of the Mummy attraction. And so, it was kind of very likely, it seemed, that they would do a preview center for the new Epic Universe theme park. And so this time it's in City Walk. It's where the Legacy store was, which was a store, Jaws, E.T., Back to the Future. They really like celebrating those retro properties, which is great. But earlier this year, I believe it was this year, maybe it was end of last year. I think it was this year, though. They closed that store to make way for the Epic Universe Preview Center. And so it's not a huge footprint of a store. And so I'm not super surprised to see that the store is basically a giant model, which this model is huge in person, and no pictures do it justice. But even in pictures and videos, it looks huge. It's a huge model that supposedly cost $1 million or more for them to create, which this is the model you've seen if you've watched the Epic Universe reveal videos on YouTube. Yeah, that model is huge, so that's in the center of the store. And then around the store is merchandise displays for each of the worlds of Epic Universe, as well as photo opportunities that look like the portals into each world. And so this new preview center, I'm going to talk first about just the overall place. Like, I'm not going to talk a ton about the model because, again, I didn't get up close and personal with it. But just the overall experience. So you walk in, on the outside, there's this big LED wall playing some of the fly-through videos they've released on YouTube of the worlds that have so far been announced, which, by the way, at the time of recording this, tomorrow, they'll be announcing Dark Universe details. And so we'll probably do an episode very soon talking about Dark Universe. But you go into the store, and right away that you're greeted with your first merchandise. On the left and on the right and in the middle, there is a display of mannequins wearing Epic Universe branded merchandise. Just, there's hats, there's shirts, there's bags, there's cup holders, there's all that kind of stuff with the Epic Universe logo on it. But to the right is where you can find a lot of that stuff. And then to the left is the first display of merchandise for the world Dark Universe. And so there's a hat for Dark Universe. There's shirt. I think there's two shirts. Yeah, there's two shirts. There's two shirts, a hoodie, there's a wallet, there, all kinds of stuff, basically. So there's a Dark Universe display. There's the Harry Potter Ministry of Magic display. Now, the Dark Universe stuff does say Dark Universe on it. The Wizarding World stuff, there's a hat that says Ministry of Magic, Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic on it, which is great. I picked that up. And then the shirts are the quote that's going on the portal for, I think it's "For in dreams we enter a world that is fully our own," something like that. And that's on t-shirts, hoodies, pins, or maybe not pins, but there is a pin for almost every land in here as well, minus Dark Universe. But there's that for the Wizarding World. And then in between each of these is a portal that kind of looks like what I guess your first glimpse will be when you enter each world. And then the logo is there. So they're really great photo opportunities, especially the Super Nintendo World one, honestly. Everyone has been grabbing some of the merch from Super Nintendo World, like the giant Mario, Luigi, Yoshi hats, and posing in front of the portal. And I think that's exactly what they wanted to happen. And then there's a giant Super Nintendo World merchandise area. There's Mario merch, Luigi merch, Bowser merch, Yoshi, Princess Peach. All of each of those characters have shirts. Some have hats. All of them have pins, I believe, keychains, and all kinds of stuff. Plushes. It's awesome. It's the same merchandise you'll find if you've been to Super Nintendo World in Hollywood or Japan. But anything that says Super Nintendo World on it does say Universal Orlando Resort. And so a lot of that will be the generic Super Nintendo World merchandise. There are a few items in there that will probably only be for this preview center for Nintendo. All the Dark Universe and Harry Potter stuff is probably only for the preview center because if you look at the tag, it says preview merchandise. And so keep that in mind for that. But a lot of the Super Nintendo World stuff will be available once the park opens as well. But it's all so fun. Like, I love Super Nintendo World. That's no secret. We've talked about it here on the show. I'm heading back to the Hollywood Super Nintendo World here in a few months. And I just love Super Nintendo World a ton. And so I am super excited to see that come to the parks. And just seeing the merchandise display here in Orlando has made it feel even more real. And so if you've never been to the other Super Nintendo Worlds, you definitely need to pick up some merchandise and just get in there. It's a lot of fun. And then in between the entrance and Super Nintendo World, there is merchandise for How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. There is a lot of it. There's a lot of the merchandise we've previously seen, shirts and pins and ornaments and magnets and lanyards. But there are also some other things, just some How to Train Your Dragon general stuff, like toothless plushes, toothless popcorn bucket, which that toothless popcorn bucket is insanely awesome. Like, I love that thing. I almost bought it. I'm sure I will at some point. But that's not new for the preview center. That's just in there. And that's great. It's great to repurpose some of that other stuff. But there's a ton of How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk merchandise. And then in the back of the store, it's kind of a mishmash of everything. So there's a little bit of Dark Universe stuff. There's a little bit of Harry Potter stuff, and Epic Universe logo stuff and Isle of Berk stuff. But the Super Nintendo World stuff is limited to the Super Nintendo World area. And so there's a ton of merchandise in there to choose from. And then in the middle of the room is this huge model. And it's a model of the entire park. It's from the park entrance through each land. And it shows a lot of detail. Like, you can get from 360 degrees, you can view it. Like, you can just walk around and see all the different details. And you can use this app they released. And the app is called Epic Universe Preview Center. And it's available on Apple and Google Play. And it's essentially just for the model. So you open the app and you hold your camera up to the model, and it'll have some fun AR things, augmented reality things, like in Super Nintendo World. In the Donkey Kong Country area, you can see like Donkey Kong running around. Mario Kart, you can see the Rainbow Road, all kinds of fun stuff. And so that only currently works for the lands that have had a deep dive. So that's Celestial Park, Super Nintendo World, Isle of Berk, and tomorrow it'll be Dark Universe. And so there will be some new stuff activated on this app tomorrow for Dark Universe. And this model, you have to catch it at the right time, really, just to see everything. And I haven't caught it yet at the right time. And so I'm super excited to explore it some more. There's some really great YouTube videos already exploring it, and it just makes everything feel more real. And so this Epic Universe Preview Center is open now at Universal Orlando, Universal City Walk. I'm unsure how long it'll be around. I mean, it'll be there for a hot minute. They spent a lot of money to make this thing open. It'll probably be open beyond when the park is open. Let's just say it's probably a year. I'm sure it'll be open at least a year. And so I'm excited to spend more time in here. I'm sure every time I visit, I'll spend a solid amount of time in there, just because the hype is real at this point for Epic Universe. And even more so will be real tomorrow, because tomorrow, again, Dark Universe is being announced. Don't miss our next podcast talking all about that, because that is the world I am most excited about. I can't wait to go to Dark Universe. The ride in that thing is supposed to be awesome. The main attraction, there's a coaster, and just the whole village, the Darkmoor Village looks awesome. And so I can't wait to get official details and more concept art and more video from Dark Universe. And so stay tuned for that. And let me know if you've been to the Epic Universe Preview Center. What did you pick up? What do you want to pick up? What have you seen online that looks intriguing to you? Have you gotten a chance to look at the model in depth? What did you think about it? Yeah, just let me know in the comment section of this week's podcast on YouTube or any of our videos on YouTube. Or you can just email me at contact.relivethemagic@gmail.com, and I'd love to read it on the next show. But that's it for the Epic Universe Preview Center. Going over to Walt Disney World. I had a chance to ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure at the annual pass holder previews. I've ridden it twice now. I rode it on Thursday, which was the first day of annual pass holder previews, and I rode it on Friday, the second day of annual pass holder previews, and I get to ride it this Saturday at the D23 Gold Member event. Before I talk about the ride, I need to talk about the operations of the ride so far. There's been a lot of talk about it online, so I'm sure those of you who listen to this show have already heard a lot about it. It is not currently very reliable, which isn't a surprise. Splash Mountain was very unreliable in the last year, 2 years, 3 years even, that it was operational. Like, it would constantly open late. It would constantly break down. There would constantly be evacuations. There were logs drowning. There was all kinds of stuff. I haven't heard of any logs drowning yet. That's great news. But there has been a ton of evacuations. There's been a ton of delayed openings. There's been a ton of downtime in general. And so this ride is less than 10 days at this point away from opening. And I don't know if it's fully ready. It is going to open. And, they're doing previews, and a lot of people have gotten to ride it. And I'll go ahead and say it's a great, great, great ride. I really enjoyed it a lot. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But just know, if you're going to these previews, you may not ride it. There's actually a really good chance you may not ride it unless you get one of the first groups of the day. And both days I was within the first 3 or 4 groups. And so I was called really quickly. I was called as soon as it opened because day 1 I was like group 4, day 2 I was group 7 maybe. And that's all called at the same time. Group 1 through 10 is called at the same time. Now, my experiences both days were wildly different. Both days it had a delayed opening. Day 1, it was a delayed opening of hours, like almost 3 hours, which was upsetting because I was on a really tight schedule. And, maybe that's my fault for going when I had to leave quickly. But you would expect, I don't know what you would expect, but it is a preview. There's things for them to fix, but it's just so not ready that it's kind of unacceptable at this point. And that's the only thing about it. Like, it's not, most rides have some downtime when they're doing previews, but it's been every single day for a lot of each day. Like, the first day it was down for 7 or 8 hours of the whole day, which is most of the day. And a lot of people just wasted their day doing it. So, I guess once we get to June 28th, we can really criticize it for not being ready. But at the moment, I guess we can't because it's not open yet. But this Saturday will be interesting, and I'm really interested to see how it goes because it's the paid preview for D23 members, where it was advertised that you could ride it over and over and over again. And it's a, 4-hour event. And so I don't know that it's run for 4 hours straight, honestly, without breakdowns. And so for it to be a paid event where you're guaranteed rides on it, not just one ride, but multiple rides, I don't know how that's going to go. I hope it works correctly. If it doesn't, you'll hear about it from me. I'm very interested to see how it goes because it hasn't been very reliable for the free previews. I don't know what will make it different for the paid ones, but let's just hope. Let's just hope it goes well because I know they don't want it to break down for that because that would be a nightmare. And honestly, these D23 events are so much fun. I went to the first one I've ever been to for Cosmic Rewind. I went to one for Tron Light Cycle Run. And for Cosmic Rewind, I rode that ride 10 times that night. And Tron was 7, 8, or 9. I don't remember what number, but it was insane. Like, those events are such a great value. And I'm expecting the same from the Tiana's Bayou Adventure event. I'm hoping for the same. I'm not sure if that'll be the case. I'm a little worried about it. But it's worth it. It's a fun ride. It's Splash Mountain, but Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It's the same exact track as we all knew it would be. And it has the same feel, the same spirit to it, I feel like. It feels more fun. Like, it's a ton of fun. A lot of people have talked about how there's no Dr. Facilier in the ride and how the lift hill isn't scary or dark. And that's okay. I really enjoyed the party feeling as you go up there. I just thought the whole ride felt super thematically consistent. Sure, I think my biggest gripe with it is it's a ride that clearly is meant to be ridden at night, and not everyone can ride it at night. I haven't yet ridden it at night, and so I'm super excited for that. But, like, a lot of the ride is super dark, and that's fine. I think that was on purpose. But I don't know if that translates well during the day. And so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that yet. But I really did enjoy the ride. I really do enjoy it. I've been on it twice. We'll see if it stands the test of time that Splash Mountain did. I love Splash Mountain. I grew up riding Splash Mountain. I've said this before. Splash Mountain was one of my top 3 favorite attractions at Walt Disney World. And so seeing it go was sad. I understand why it had to go. And I think this is a really good replacement. And I think that this is a great attraction that I will do every time I visit Magic Kingdom. There's no part of me that feels like this is a bad attraction like many are out there saying. And, obviously it's subjective. It's an opinion-based thing. But for me, I really enjoyed Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We'll talk more about it as the problems get worked out a little bit more. Because one of my rides, every 5 seconds we stopped. Like, it was not a great ride through, but my first ride was really good. And my first ride is actually on our YouTube channel to watch in full. And I don't want to talk spoilers about it yet. I will talk spoilers about it once the ride officially opens and once I've been on it more times. But there's some parts about it that I think are a huge upgrade. There's some parts about it that I'm 50-50 on. And there's some parts, like, it's just a great ride. It's just a great ride in general. I think a lot more kids will enjoy this ride because no one knew Song of the South, which is on purpose for obvious reasons. Everyone knows Tiana and Princess and the Frog, and so kids are going to love this ride. And I think more kids are going to be willing to do this ride than were before, because before it was a foreboding. The 50-foot drop was a big foreboding thing. I know in the ride it's definitely not anymore, and I think that the Tiana aspect is going to make it feel more approachable for kids, and so I think ultimately that's a win. My only hope for this ride operationally is that they would not do virtual queue for long. I really hope that the virtual queue is only here for a week or two or until they figure out their operational issues. But one of the best things about Splash Mountain was how easy it was to get on every single day. I mean, this may have a wait, but that's fine. I'd rather a wait than virtual queue. Also, the wait is much better now. I wouldn't say a lot of, but once you go up those stairs, the rest of the queue is inside, which is awesome. Because before, like, the barn section was fully, it was fully outside, and so they just enclosed that, and that was really cool. They did some additional theming there, and just being inside with air conditioning really enhanced that experience a lot. And so, Tiana's Bayou Adventure to me is a big win. The only issue is the operations, and I think that'll get better, and I hope it'll get better. It just doesn't feel like it was ready yet. But the ride itself is a lot of fun, and so if you're going to Walt Disney World after June 28th, definitely do it. It's not individual lightning lane, but I would try to get Genie Plus for it and virtual queue for it while it's doing both, because I think you'll want to ride it multiple times. It's a lot of fun. I think your kids will enjoy it. I think that it'll become a classic and a must-do at Magic Kingdom for sure. And so I'm super excited for it to officially open June 28th, and I'm extremely excited for this event Saturday. Saturday, I'm going to get to watch the movie in the morning at Disney Springs, and then that night get to ride it at the D23 event, both at day and at night. And so I'm super excited for it. I'll definitely do a review on that event and definitely do a video on that event. And so stay tuned for that and more from Tiana's Bayou Adventure as it opens here in just a couple of weeks at Magic Kingdom and in a couple of months at Disneyland. Also, brand new for this summer is at Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure. There are some new things going on, and a couple of those are new nighttime shows. We talked a couple weeks back about at Universal Studios Florida, the brand new DreamWorks Land featuring Shrek, Trolls, Kung Fu Panda, Puss in Boots, and a new show. And we talked all about my thoughts on that. I enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun. That's officially open now, and so that's exciting. But also, so June 14th, that officially opened. Also on June 14th, they debuted 2 new shows. One of them is a new updated version of a show that's already been there, which is a projection show on Hogwarts Castle called Hogwarts Always. We'll talk about that in a second. And the other is a huge show that they've been working on for years. It's called Cinesational, a symphonic spectacular. And, both shows are up in full on our YouTube channel and a vlog from opening night. And Cinesational absolutely blew me away. I did not expect it. I knew what the show consisted of. It was drones, fountains, and fireworks. I knew that. But just the way they did the show was so exceptional that I would say it's the best theme park show I've ever seen anywhere. Like, Happily Ever After included, Wishes included, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Fireworks, which are my favorite, included. This show was phenomenal. And every part of it was phenomenal. I had a smile on my face behind my camera the entire show. And everyone around me was really, really into it. People behind me were crying. People were smiling. People were cheering. It was a ton of fun. And, that was partially because it was the annual pass holder crew on the first night. But it's just a ton of fun, and I really can't wait to go see that show again. So that show, essentially, Cinesational, is about the power of music, which may sound familiar. That's Luminous, the Symphony of Us. But I think Cinesational does it in a lot better of a way. This is specifically about the movie soundtracks. So you see a ton of Universal's classic properties. You see, the ones we've talked about in the recent weeks that are in the stores: E.T., Jaws, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters. But you also see things like Super Mario Bros. Movie, Trolls. You see Shrek, and you see How to Train Your Dragon. You see all kinds of current, past films just in different ways. And you see some of them through drones. You see some of them through fountains. A lot of them you see through both. There's fireworks. Just the music, the way the music goes with everything, and it's just awesome. Like, every moment of this show is incredible. It's a long show. It's like 22, 23 minutes, but it flew by for me. It was nice and refreshing, because a lot of nighttime shows to me feel very rinse and repeat. And it was nice to see something new. I've seen a drone show before. I've seen the Disney Springs drone show, and I enjoyed that. But this is something completely different. This is something that a lot of care and time really went into, and I'm shocked, because Universal has never been known for their nighttime shows. And that's always been, I would say, the one thing that as they catch up to Disney, that's really the one thing that they needed to work on. And they did. And they blew me away. And I think they blew a lot of other people away. And so Cinesational at Universal Studios Florida, every night it shows right now at 9 o'clock. I don't know if it depends what time the park closes, but at the moment it's 9 o'clock, which has been park closing time. And so definitely check that out. Like, go out of your way to check it out. If you're not planning to be at Universal Studios Florida, find a way to get there, because it's incredible. And it will be a highlight of your trip, of your vacation. So it is running now through August, I believe. I don't know what date. I don't want to say what date, but it's the last week or two of August. And it will come back after the holidays, more than likely, if I had to guess. I mean, they spent years and years making this. I would assume that it's just leaving for the Horror Nights season and maybe the holiday season. But I'm sure it's going to be the new standard show for a long time. It's really great, and they're not going to get rid of it. But this is a new era for Universal Orlando nighttime shows, and they should be super proud of this show. They did an incredible job. And I would just say, if you want to see it, I waited about an hour and 15 minutes before it started, and I had a great view. I was in the Universal annual pass holder section, which is in Central Park. Really, the main viewing of the show is in Central Park, and so everyone can stand at Central Park. There's just the upper level is for Universal annual pass holders for the next week or two. And so after that, I'm guessing it's all for the general public, but no matter what, if you're in that section or you're not in that section, get there at least an hour and 15 minutes early if you want a really, really great spot. Maybe it's a little less time now that it's not opening night anymore, but it is popular, and it will be popular, I'm pretty sure, because it is so good, and it is worth waiting. It's worth waiting there for. I mean, obviously the drones are in the air, but that's not all that's in the show. There's fountains and there's all that stuff. So watch it from the Central Park viewing area. Don't watch it from the other side of the park, because it'll be backwards. So just know that. Just know that you do need to devote some time to it, and it'll be definitely worth it. It'll definitely be worth your time investment. And so, again, that includes all kinds of crazy IP. Super Nintendo World, Bowser does the Peaches song, which was genius and got a great reaction. You get the Trolls, that song from Trolls, Can't Stop the Feeling, with some great visuals to it. You've got E.T.'s in it, and that was a really great moment. The Universal logo shows up. It's just all the things they did were perfect. It includes properties from Epic Universe, which was exciting. It includes retro and iconic properties. It includes new properties, and it just includes a lot of great moments, sweet moments, nostalgic moments. It includes funny moments, as I just said, with the Peaches thing. And it was just really well put together. And I've watched it several times at home this week since being there watching it in person, and I can't wait to get back in the next few weeks to be able to watch it. I'm sure that'll probably happen in the next week or two, but it was awesome. And so definitely recommend Cinesational and Symphonic Spectacular at Universal Studios Florida. Check the show times, because right now it's 9 o'clock, but I don't know if that's always the case. But it's definitely worth your time. And so also, on the same day, they debuted the newest version of the Hogwarts Castle projection show that takes place in Hogsmeade. And that's Hogwarts Always. Now, in general, in principle, this is an easier show to see. It happens from dusk till park close, which at the moment isn't that long of a time. At the moment, at least on this night, Islands of Adventure was open an hour past studios, and so it was open until 10 o'clock. And so it was possible to see it after Cinesational. It was really difficult, though. It was really difficult to get there. Basically, everyone ran from Cinesational to Islands of Adventure, and I don't know if that's the case every night, because, again, this was opening night, and everyone wanted to see both shows. But just know, if you do that, there's not a ton of team members ready for you at the ticketing gate. It's going to take you a minute to get in. And this show happens every 20 minutes. The last show is at park close at 10 o'clock. So I don't know. I don't remember exactly when. It was like 10:45 that we got let into the viewing area. I don't know. Like, the viewing area is limited. So I can't guarantee that if you want to watch both that you'll be able to. But you probably can, as long as you go straight from Cinesational to Hogwarts Always. And then you can see both. But if you had to choose between them, Cinesational for sure. Hogwarts Always, though, is a really strong show. It's a really strong show. If you only have a ticket to Islands of Adventure, it's definitely worth it. And if you have a ticket to both and can make it, it's definitely worth it. And this show, to me, was a major upgrade from the previous one. The previous Hogwarts show was literally just about the four houses. It was Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw. But this one actually incorporated that part into it, which I thought was good. This one's longer. I don't remember, maybe 11 minutes, maybe 12 minutes, maybe a little less. But it was kind of like a highlight reel of Harry Potter. You know, there was all kinds of stuff in it, and a lot of iconic moments from the films, and it included the house part. I think it was the best of both worlds. And it was definitely the best show I've seen of this kind. It was the best use of the Hogwarts Castle projection system. They definitely have upgraded that projection system because it looked incredible. Like, the quality, the brightness, and the lighting package looked awesome. There were some new atmospheric effects in the crowd. It was all really great. And this one's an easy one to see if you just want to see this one. Not as easy if you want to do both, but you should do both if you can. And Hogwarts Always will probably be around for a while too. Usually at Halloween time, they'll do the Dark Arts at Hogwarts Castle show, which I also really enjoy a lot. And so this will probably also go away around Halloween time and then come back later. They do have a Christmas show as well, usually that they'll do. So this will probably be on the same schedule as Cinesational, so probably summer and off seasons. But I don't know that for sure. I'm more sure of that for Cinesational. But Hogwarts Always currently is only the Islands of Adventure version of Wizarding World. I'm assuming it'll eventually make its way to Hollywood and some of the other ones too. But it's a lot of fun, and definitely try to get closer. Not super up close to the castle, but you don't want to be in Hogsmeade Village watching because you're not going to see anything. It's a castle projection show with a couple bursts of fireworks at the end. It's not a fireworks show. It's not a drone show. It's just a projection show, and it's a projection show that's done really well. And so I recommend checking that out. That's in Hogsmeade at Islands of Adventure, and so it's not at the studios. Just know that. If you're at Cinesational, you have to go to the other park to see that. And so I don't know. Like, I'm sure there are some nights where they're going to close at the same time, and you have to choose between the two. And the reason you can't go before Cinesational, at least right now, is dusk, is while you're waiting for Cinesational, unless you really want to risk it, which I don't think it's worth it. So I think you just try to do what I did, watch Cinesational, kind of sprint over to Islands of Adventure, watch Hogwarts Always, and then close out your night that way. But yeah, it's up to you, obviously, whatever your priority is. But I think your priority should be Cinesational, and then Hogwarts Always should come second. But they're both fantastic shows. Cinesational, best theme park show I have ever seen. And I stand by that. I think it's a really fantastic show. I think Universal proved themselves on nighttime shows. And I think that whatever they're cooking for Epic Universe's nighttime show, I think is going to be equally as spectacular. They have these huge water fountains at Epic Universe. They're going to have fireworks and more. And so I'm excited to see what they do there. And we'll see that next year at some point, I'm sure. They haven't said they're doing one, but they have a firework launch site. So they're going to be doing something there. And so coming up July 3rd is a new parade, the Mega Movie Parade at Universal Studios Florida. And so the quality of these shows has me super excited for this new parade, which has also been in the works for several years now. And that'll feature a lot of the same properties from this show. And so I'm super excited to see that here in a couple of weeks. But for now, those are my thoughts on Cinesational, Hogwarts Always, and just how you should go about watching those. And again, those are also on our YouTube channel. We've uploaded full videos of those, and then we uploaded a vlog that contains the videos of those and my experience getting between the two and some of the new stuff in the parks as well. And so, that's Cinesational and Hogwarts Always, and that's kind of the new stuff in the parks at the moment, at least that off the top of my head here. I think that's it for the summer for brand new stuff other than the parade at Universal Studios Florida in Islands of Adventure. And so those are some really good things considering that they have a new theme park opening up next year. They could have easily taken the year off. But DreamWorks Land, these two incredible new shows, I think they did a really great job. So kudos to Universal Orlando and Universal Creative on these new projects. All right, and we have one more thing that I want to talk about. This is not news necessarily. This is my experience. I want to share my experience at an event I got to go to June 9th, I believe it was. It was Friday night 2 weeks ago. The Orlando Informer Meetup, Summer Edition. I have been to June 7th, by the way. I've been to many Orlando Informer events through the years. I have been at winter. I've been in February. I've been to all the other ones except the summer ones, just because it's always worked out that way. Summer has never been a time I thought would be awesome to go, just because of the heat and a lot of the times the rain. And so I was really curious about it. I really wanted to go this time, and I decided that I was going to go. And so on June 7th, I went to the Orlando Informer Meetup. I'll usually do both nights. I'll do the Friday and Saturday, but it just wasn't in the cards this time, so I did the Friday night. And you should know, the Orlando Informer Meetup is not cheap. It's around, I don't want to say false numbers, but it was around $290 for me to go for the one night. And it's definitely a better deal to do the 2 nights because you get $100 off the second night. But it's not inexpensive, and so I don't take this review lightly. But the Orlando Informer Meetup is the best theme park event. I mean, Halloween Horror Nights might be better, but in terms of if you want to visit the parks after dark, if you want to get your money's worth out of something like a Disney After Hours event, this is better than those. The Orlando Informer Meetup, what makes it different from like just a regular After Hours event is that they have unlimited food and beverage service included in your ticket, which is crazy because it's every single restaurant, pretty much almost every restaurant has almost full menus. Some have just like little buffets. Some are set up as full buffets. Some are set up with their normal menu and you just order. All the snack stands are open with pretzels, popcorn, hot dogs, fountain drinks, all kinds of stuff. And so that's a really fun element of this that really makes the ticket worth it. But you can get in at the Orlando Informer Meetup, I believe at 5 o'clock. And so check-in's at 3 o'clock, and you do that in between Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure. You pass the former Blue Man Group Theater, and you're in one of the sound stages. And so you pick up basically a wristband. They tell you what you need to know, and they send you on your way. And then in the sound stage, right next to where you get your check-in stuff, you can get some pre-event bites. I don't remember what they're called, but it's like small things. Like you can get a hot dog, you can get nachos, you can get mac and cheese, stuff like that. And it's all really good stuff, by the way. Like that's a great perk. In the last year or two, that's been a new thing that they've done. They used to give you like a gift card to use before the event started for like $10. And I think this is great, not just for the food, but for this instance specifically, it was summer. It was so hot outside. It was like 100 degrees outside. And that was an indoor air-conditioned place just to hang out. There was some live music. There was a meet and greet with their icon churro. There was the food. There was free bottles of water and there was a free specialty non-alcoholic drink. There was a bar in there. And there was just some places to hang out, and it was nice and cold in there. And so that was really great for this event because it was a great place to hang out. It was popular, I think, mostly because of the heat. Like, it was more so popular than it was before. But again, this is only for meetup guests. And so that was a really great place to hang out. I hung out there for a while, not eating, just hanging out. And so that's a plus. That's a new perk. If you haven't been yet, hopefully they keep that up. They had some live music, and just the atmosphere was a ton of fun. And so even since the last one I went to in February, it was definitely an improvement. And so that's something to know. Don't pass that by. That's open from like 3 to 7, I believe, 3 to 8, depending what time the meetup starts. It's 3 to whenever the meetup starts, and then after that, that crossover lounge is what I think it becomes called. It starts being called, and you can get desserts there. And that's located in between the two parks, which another great perk about this event is that during the event, once it's an hour past close, and that's also when all the restaurants open, other than a few of them, you can walk between the two parks on this shortcut, this crossover path between Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, and One Fish, Two Fish in Seuss Landing. And so that cuts your travel time between parks down significantly. And that for me is something that I just love about this event. I can go back and forth, which I do. I go to one park, I go to the other park, I go back to the other park over and over again, just because it's so easy to do during the event. And so in between those is the lounge during the actual event, which is the same place that all the food is available prior to the event. Just know that. And so obviously something that a lot of people love about this event, which is me. I do this event mainly for the rides. I don't really do much food at this event, but the food is a really great part of this event. The main thing for me is the low attraction wait times. And so I just want to tell you what all I did in one night at the Orlando Informer Meetup. I did not get to do Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, which I usually do. Usually it's about, a 30-minute wait at the most at this event. For whatever reason, I never saw it get below an hour, and I got in line thinking, no, there's no way it's an hour. It was definitely an hour, and that was really disappointing, but that ride's just super popular. I don't know how they can control it. I don't know if it's predictable how many people go, but they don't increase the capacity very much at each of these events as far as I can tell. And so I don't think it was overcrowded, but that was just my experience. And so I didn't get to do Hagrid's. Maybe if I had not come to Hagrid's recently or not ridden it recently, maybe I would have done that, but it wasn't a priority for me. And so here's what I did ride-wise at the Orlando Informer Meetup on June 7th. This is all in one night. This event was from, I believe it was 7 o'clock to 12:30. And so it's not super long, not super short, but I was able to do the following things: Cat in the Hat, Villain Con, Gringotts, Men in Black, Troller Coaster, Revenge of the Mummy, the Seuss Trolley Train, Velocicoaster, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, Jurassic Park River Adventure, Spider-Man, Dr. Doom's Fearfall, Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, E.T., and Jimmy Fallon. Which, that's a solid amount of attractions. And I could have gone and done Revenge of the Mummy again. It just kind of, I don't know. I just had to do a drive home, which my drive home was a couple hours. So I just decided to head out. But you can do a lot of this event. And that was with me stopping, to go through the tribute store and stopping to get some food. And so if you're going to marathon hard through these rides, you can do it. Like, you can ride everything you want to ride. Especially, I really recommend if you're a first timer or if you don't get to go to the park super often, I really recommend the 2-night pass. But the 1 night is great if you just want a taste of the event. And maybe if it's your first time, maybe the 1 night is the way to go. But that's a ton of rides. And the Wizarding World isn't super crowded during these events, at least usually. Velocicoaster is a really good one to do during this event. For me, unfortunately, it broke down while I was in line. And so I stuck it out and I waited about, 30 minutes. But usually you can just walk right onto Velocicoaster most of the night. And so for me, that's a huge plus. And so if Hagrid isn't, everything doesn't have a wait except for Hagrid. Just know that. And maybe Velocicoaster a 20-minute wait at the most. And so if you consider that to be a good deal, then the Orlando Informer Meetup is for you. I do have some tips for the Orlando Informer Meetup just to share. Number 1, you can get in at 5. And if you're an annual pass holder, obviously you can get in whenever. I would say when you get in at 5, do the things that are typically a low wait. So that would be, Fast and Furious Supercharged for obvious reasons. Jimmy Fallon, that would be Cat in the Hat. If you really want to do One Fish, Two Fish, that would be, you could do single rider for some things like Spider-Man, Transformers. I would say E.T., but E.T. has been really popular lately. Things like that, things that you can easily get done from 5 to 7, or even on some nights it's 9 o'clock that it starts and it goes later. Get all those done before the event so you can do some of the more high-profile rides during the actual event and take advantage of the low wait times. So during the event, I would say prioritize, Velocicoaster. and sometimes Hagrid's, as long as it's not a super long wait. I wouldn't spend more than 45 minutes in line for it at this event. So Hagrid's Velocicoaster, obviously. I would definitely do Gringotts. I would definitely do Spider-Man, and then Rip Ride Rocket had no wait. And I've actually been in a situation before with Rip Ride Rocket where they've let me stay on the car and just keep going. And so that's something to stay on. Revenge of the Mummy and Men in Black and E.T., all of those have no waits. And also River Adventure has no wait. So a lot of these rides have no waits. I would start, though, before the event starts, I would do the ones that usually have no wait. So that's, again, Supercharged and Fallon and things like that. And then things with single rider lines if that's something that you want to do. And then once the event starts, I would definitely start with I would start with the biggest attractions because I think that's where people are going to go to first, and they're still kind of emptying the lines from during the day. I would start going to Spider-Man or Gringotts or something like that. And then as you get about an hour or two into the event, maybe hit up Hagrid's and Velocicoaster. I'd maybe hit Hagrid's as the unlimited food service starts an hour into the event. And so for this case, it was 8 o'clock. A second tip, as far as food goes, each park has a couple of options available as soon as the event starts. And that's a newer thing. And so at Studios, I know it was Richter's Burger and Cafe La Bamba. I did Cafe La Bamba. I've never actually eaten at Cafe La Bamba before this, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought their tacos were awesome. So I recommend that. You can do that at 7 o'clock. That gives a little time for the park to clear out. And then at Islands, I don't remember, honestly, what was open at Park Close. I want to say it was the Burger Digs was one of them, and maybe one of the Marvel restaurants. That sounds right to me, but I don't quote me on that. And so that's a tip. Hit one of those as the parks close. Don't do it right at 7. There was a line outside of each of them at 7 o'clock. I would wait 7:15, and that'll be good. That'll give some time for the parks to clear out, and then hit some rides, and then you can get some snacks throughout the night, or do whatever you want there. But if you do want to focus on food, as the restaurants open at 8, don't go to the ones like the Harry Potter ones. Don't go to the Minion Cafe. Don't go to Circus McCircus. Those will be probably super popular. Mel's will be probably super popular as it opens. Go to some of the lesser desired ones and then hit those later on in the night. That runs until about an hour before the event's over, an hour and a half, something like that. And then the snack carts stay open until the conclusion of the event. And so just keep that in mind. Also, a lot of the rides have to be clear before the event's over. So Velocicoaster, Hagrid's, some of the other big attractions, mainly the thrill rides, and the e-tickets. I would say the e-tickets probably. A lot of them have to close by midnight. A lot of them have to close. Depends on the night. So my night, it was 12 o'clock, which wasn't horrible. That was like 30 minutes before the event ended. They have to be clear. That doesn't mean they close at midnight. That means you really need to be in line no later than 11:30, no later than 11:15. At 11:30, they may close the line. They may already be closed. So I would say 11:15. If you haven't done one of those rides, get in line immediately. And then also for the end of the night, all the rides have to be closed by the event closing time. And so they'll probably stop letting people in 10 to 15 minutes early, depending on the length of the attraction. And so just know that. But anyway, that's just some tips there. And also, just don't forget to take advantage of the fact that the park is empty. Don't get so busy. Don't get so preoccupied with running around the park, eating all the food that you just forget to take it in a little bit. Like, the crowds are awesome. Like, I have some pictures of myself from this event by myself in the streets of Universal Studios Florida. And that's awesome. Those are some of the coolest pictures I have. And I just love this event. Like, I love the atmosphere. I love they have some characters roaming around the park. I love the no waits. I love the freedom to try things that I don't typically try as far as food goes in the parks without having to pay for it. And I just love it. There's also a fun community. Like, there's a Facebook group for the Orlando Informer where people talk all the time about this event, planning fun things and planning, I don't know, just like giving away things and things like that. But you should check that out. And there's Orlando Informer meetups all throughout the year. There's another summer one in August during the D23 Expo weekend, in the very beginning of August, I think. It's like August 9th. That's the next one. And then there's several in winter. So there's 2 in November, 2 in December, 2 weekends. So each weekend has 2 nights. So that's a lot of nights to choose from. Those tickets aren't on sale yet. They'll probably be somewhere around $290 for one night, or I don't know. I don't know, somewhere between $290 and $400 is probably what you're looking at, which I think is expensive, but I think it's worth it for what you get for this event. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that event. I do it every year. I do it at winter at some point, so I'm sure I'll do one of them in December or November, and then I'll probably do the Mardi Gras one in February. That one's a ton of fun too, and that's a newer one as well. And so if any of you have ever done the Orlando Informer Meetup, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it. If you're doing one, let me know if you have any questions about it. It's a very fun event. I know it's expensive and you want to get the most out of it. If you really want to see more from my experience, I do have a full vlog of my night on YouTube. I just kind of talked through what I was doing as I was doing it. Showed some of the crowd levels, which were non-existent. And I will say, it felt, I wouldn't say more crowded is the word. I heard a lot of people saying there were more people there. And that's just not the case. Someone asked and they said that there was 6 people more there than a previous meetup, which that wouldn't make much of a difference. And I think it was just really hot. And a lot of people were gravitating towards the inside places. And so a lot of the time it felt more crowded. It was also the summer. And so before the parks cleared out, it was definitely more crowded. But once the parks were cleared out, it wasn't too crowded at all. And a lot of people did gravitate towards Hagrid's. And so that... A lot of people gravitated towards Hagrid's during the event, and that's no one's fault. That's just where everyone wanted to go. And so just keep that in mind, that Hagrid's may not be a low wait, but everything else will be fine. And it's a great event. Not a ton of people there, but it's a lot of fun. They sell merchandise beforehand. They sell a t-shirt for every meetup. They have some plushes of their icon, churro, and all that fun stuff as well. So you can all find out more information at meetup.orlandoinformer.com. And there you'll also find future dates for future meetups. And also on our YouTube channel, again, you can find our video and you can find out if you want. You can ask me anything you want about the meetup, and I'd love to answer it from previous experiences as well. But I just wanted to give a brief rundown of my experience with the meetup. And so hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully you enjoyed that. But that was our last topic of today's show. And so we covered a lot today. But with that, I want to thank you all for watching and for listening. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcast, on Apple Podcast, on YouTube. You can watch it. Please like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and stay tuned. We have a lot of stuff coming up here in the next few months. We got the D23 Expo coming up, Halloween Horror Nights. We have a Disney Cruise on the Disney Magic going to Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point, which is going to be one of our topics on one of our upcoming shows as well. And all sorts of fun stuff coming up. And so again, thank you so much for listening and for watching. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you here in just a couple days as we talk about the latest Epic Universe announcement, Dark Universe. See you next time. Have a magical day.